Hi, I am Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions, we all have had different transitions in our life. And I like to use the metaphor of triathlons. That's something that I do, triathlons. First you get in the water and you swim. Then you get in a transition area and then you bike. And then you transition again and you run. And there you go, your life is changing, and what a great metaphor for what happens in your life. And so we have a guide to your life, in the world of exercise, in the world of your body. And that's Garrett McLaughlin, who has his own company that teaches people how to run, how to get their body in shape, how to get over injuries. And he's going to tell us all about what he does. And this is just the first show. We have a second show too. So stay tuned. So Garrett, thank you for being on Transitions.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Becky.
Yeah.
Glad to be here today.
Yeah. Well, tell us the capsule of describe what you do with your company.
Okay. So my company, just me by myself, I work with a lot of runners and triathletes, some general population, but what we do is a lot of movement-specific and more orthopedic-based exercise. So what we do is look at a person that's either looking to run a race or maybe has a history of orthopedic injuries. We evaluate and see what's going on and where those limitations are. Mm-hmm. And then through exercise, through some manual therapy and soft tissue therapy, we look to really guide them along that process to either running a marathon, getting back into triathlon injury-free, or just living a healthy lifestyle.
Okay. All right. So somebody that comes to you says, hey, I ran track in high school. It's been 15 years. Can you help me? What do you tell that person?
Yes. I'd love to help those kinds of people, especially those that have been active in the past. They're pretty easy. You just pretty much have to guide them and put them in the right place and let them go. A lot of times it's getting them back on track, because those are the people that throughout the years, either through desk jobs or family, have not been as active. So it's really taking a thoughtful approach to see this is where you were, this is where you are now. How do we bridge the gap to really get you to the next step? To make sure not just throwing you out there and hoping for the best, but we're really being mindful of those exercise and mobility and flexibility and all those different areas to let them be successful long term.
Well, I want to get back to that. I wanted you to kind of explain to our audience what your background is, and like in high school, did you start playing sports, and what sports, and how did that all culminate in what you do now?
Okay, so throughout my life, I was always active. Played a variety of sports. My main sports were hockey, soccer, and baseball.
And that was where?
Right outside of Boston. So I grew up in Medford, Massachusetts. So
okay.
Played a lot right around New England. I mean, we traveled a lot through sports. We traveled up through Canada and Montreal, and I mean all of the country playing sports and different tournaments. So we had a lot of good experiences at a young age playing different teams throughout the country. Throughout the years, we always did something. Either we were playing sports in an organized team, or we were out in the streets. I mean, Boston, you'd walk a couple blocks and see kids out there shooting hoops or playing street hockey or just throwing the baseball around. So when we weren't playing with a team, we were somewhere kind of getting into trouble and having fun, which was great. So what kind of led me on the career path that I'm on now was a few injuries through high school hockey. So I strained my rotator cuff and also separated an AC joint.
And an AC joint is
it's an acromioclavicular joint. It's right on the top of the shoulder here, kind of where the clavicle and the scapula are attached together.
Right.
So those led me into physical therapy, which at the time was something, obviously, as a high school kid, the last thing I wanted to do was sit there and do physical therapy. I wanted to be out playing hockey and being active. So I was off for about 2 to 4 weeks with both injuries, and had a great interaction with my physical therapist. He was at a Division III university. So as I was doing PT, I saw all the other athletes come in on a daily basis and get ready for practice, whether it's taping, bracing, or rehab. So I saw a lot of what he did with the university athletes, and I thought, well, this is pretty cool. We have all these college athletes coming in, getting ready, working with the guy that I'm working with. It just seemed like it merged my interest in the human body, but also my love for athletics as well. So that's kind of what led me on my path to looking into PT school and athletic training sports med major within college.
And did you play sports in college too?
I didn't. No, I went to a Division I university. Kind of decided to go a couple hours away in Connecticut, and I played with. There were a few men's leagues in the area, so we still played hockey and did intramurals with my college roommates, but not with the school sports team.
Okay. All right. So there you are in college, and you're deciding you're going to be in sports medicine. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So I decided to pursue athletic training sports medicine. I was kind of torn at the time. I applied to physical therapy school, applied to athletic training sports med school, which have a lot of similarities but have their differences as well. What I really liked about the athletic training side was these are the professionals that are usually with the sports teams, at practices, at games, traveling. So it's not just you're there for when there's an injury and rehabbing, but can we make sure these athletes are staying healthy, looking at hydration, making sure different illnesses and things while they're on the road, they're kind of taken care of. So it was kind of an interesting approach to taking care of the healthcare of athletes.
Were you on the road with athletic groups?
I was. So once I finished and graduated, well, my senior year I did a clinical rotation with the men's basketball team. So it's the entire year you're working with that team under a mentor or the head athletic trainer for the school. And we traveled all over the place. So bus trips from University of Maine all the way down to New Jersey, because we were in Connecticut at the time. So we traveled mostly up in the Northeast. So it was pretty cool and interesting to be a part of that process and to see what went into the day-to-day, because it's a lot more than just handling the injuries. You're there for all aspects of their health care.
And you were getting to know each individual team member and what their weak point was, and it's a team kind of thing, and you're like become part of the team as a medical person.
Yes. So you get a good feel for each individual person. I mean, everyone's so different, but every little piece comes together, from what I did with the sports med side, strength conditioning, the nutrition. They had counselors for school. They had coach. I mean, it's really a lot of different professionals that are put together within this team to make sure, not just from the athletic side, but also academics as well, is taken care of to allow them to be successful.
So you did that after you graduated, and you with your bachelor's?
Yes. So once I graduated from Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, I went to and did a graduate assistantship. So 2 years at Florida International University in Miami.
In Miami. Okay. Wow. You went from New England to Miami.
Bounced around a bit. Yeah.
Wow.
So I had the opportunity there to work with the men's soccer, women's tennis, and also helped out with track and field and football.
Wow.
So my primary duties were men's soccer and tennis. So anytime they traveled, every practice I went to and attended to make sure, what are we looking for? Are we taping ankles? Are we wrapping shoulders? Are we doing the things to keep them injury free because they have a previous injury? Or are we going on the road with them just to make sure any aches, pains, or things throughout the day before a game or during a long tournament weekend we're taken care of? So they're obviously the team, we're hoping the team does pretty well.
Right, and from my view, watching football at home on the TV, and you see somebody injured and they go up during the game, but you forget that all the preparation before they ever get on the playing field, whatever they're doing, that's somebody like you out there helping them, taping them, getting it ready.
Right. Yeah, it's usually you're there at all aspects of before an injury, watching the injury happen, usually, unfortunately, during a game, and usually that professional working with the team doctor to go out to the field to evaluate the injury, see what's going on, and either they're good to go back in, do we need a tape, do we need a brace, or are we setting them up for x-rays or MRI to see, okay, how serious is this injury? And then once they come back from the doc, now we start the process of how can we get this athlete better again, return them back to the field, work with the strength conditioning staff to progress them and to build them back up, so when they get back in, their chance of injury is slim to none is the goal.
Wow. So you did that, but then down in Miami, you got a master's degree there? Is that what
I did.
And what was that?
The master's degree was very based on exercise physiology, so we looked at biomechanics, nutrition, exercise phys. There was some strength conditioning and more resistance training type classes. So really everything when it comes to movement in the human body, injury prevention and rehabilitation, we really covered everything.
Wow.
It was pretty interesting.
Very interesting. So when you finished, you were in Miami for 2 years, did you say?
2 years, yes.
Then where'd you go?
After that, actually, I met my girlfriend, Kristen, in Miami, so I moved up to Michigan.
Love happened, so now
Michigan.
it's Michigan.
Yep, so moved up to Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was a lot of fun right by the
University of Michigan.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
So it was a great college town. At that time, because I moved up there, it was hard to line up a job in that specific area. I actually started working at a pretty big high school in Dearborn, Michigan, so right outside the suburbs of Detroit. So worked with the high school there, which was very busy. Me by myself working, kind of overseeing the healthcare of all the high school teams. So all these teams that had freshmen, JV, varsity, visiting teams that came in. So it's when you get to that setting, it's very challenging to keep up with everything. So you're kind of bouncing around from one practice to the other, doing rehab, talking to parents, and it becomes challenging.
Yeah, and that was everything from football to soccer to all the teams.
Right, everything. Yep, field hockey, swimming, basketball. It was very busy.
What a job! Wow.
I know.
Wow, what great. You're becoming more and more well developed in so many different areas.
Right.
I can see this.
Yeah, you're kind of thrown into. You need to figure out the demands of the sport, different injuries for different athletes, especially up there. Just coming from New England and then going to Miami and then Michigan, just the type of people, it's a whole different environment, but it's pretty fun getting to learn that.
And dealing with parents.
Parents, that's always fun. Yeah, that's always fun.
Wow. All right, so Michigan was how long?
Michigan, I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then we moved actually over to Kalamazoo, Michigan, which that's when things kind of took a turn for me as far as career paths. I was actually considering going to PT school at the time. So I went to the local community college, started doing some prerequisites. I only had a few because what I did was very similar to PT school. So there were a few other prereqs I needed to take in order to apply. But at the time, I actually got a job and started working at a local athletic club. And luckily for me, the head, the fitness director there also worked at a college, so he knew athletic training, sports med. He knew my background. So from there, I started working, doing some fitness training, working with a lot of the clients as they were cleared from physical therapy to kind of bridge them on that next step to getting back to either running or just whatever their health and fitness goals were. So I was kind of that in-between step just to make sure they were successful in transitioning over.
Okay.
So that's when my career path kind of took a turn, but a very good turn.
And that wasn't with a team, that was with individuals.
It was. That was with mostly general population. Still had some high school athletes that at that time were cleared by their physical therapist but needed someone in the local area. So it wasn't with a team specifically, but we still saw those athletes on a regular basis.
Wow. So then your career path changes. You're no longer with the teams, you're with individuals, and you're helping the general population in their sports?
Yes, their sports, their hobbies. A lot of them too were not just getting back to running triathlon or playing recreational sports, but getting back just to playing with their kids again. They were cleared cleared from PT, but they still had some lingering issues or still had trouble getting up and down from the ground to play with a kid. So we really worked on looking at not just strength training, but looking at mobility, balance, and stability, and just for them to live a healthy lifestyle and to do the things they love again.
Wow. Yeah. The simple things you don't think of until you're injured, and then you want to play with your kids.
Right, exactly.
But you can't because of this injury, and what a wonderful thing to be able to help people on such a simple thing. It's not like they want to run a marathon yet. They just want to get up and play with their kids and not hurt.
Right, right. Because that goes a long way for a lot of people until you realize and you're at that position where I can't do what I love on a daily basis. A lot of people now that are running marathons that are healthy that can do that. I mean, that's almost a bonus I see, you know. But can you do the simple things on a daily basis that you love to do that give you joy? I mean, that's where the wins are.
Right, right. All right, so that's where are we, in Michigan then?
We're in Michigan now.
Kalamazoo or
Kalamazoo,
Dearborn?
Michigan, yep.
Yeah. All right, so you're doing work with individuals, and somehow or other you got to Nashville.
Got to Nashville, yep. We moved down to Nashville in 2013, I believe. It's been about 5 years or so now. So at the time, tried to kind of develop this different niche that I was in as far as being more of a sports med professional in this fitness setting. So at the time when I moved down to Nashville, started working at PhysioFit, which was a great starting point being here.
I actually go to PhysioFit. I've had Brandy on the show, the owner of PhysioFit,
So it was a very good starting point. Met some great people just from the start that were really into, just loved helping people, which I love to be around. So what I did once I started was got into some of the personal training and started taking more advanced courses in active release techniques, which is a soft tissue manual therapy. So my goal was to try to find a differentiator in the fitness world. Yes, everyone's doing personal training and working with people to achieve their health and fitness goals, but how can I incorporate more of my sports med background into the fitness setting? So the soft tissue manual therapy has really been a good differentiator to get in there, and in addition to the movement, how can we work on muscles and tissues to help regain flexibility and range of motion and just overall good quality movement.
And it's called ART?
ART, yes.
All right. Could you explain a little bit more about that? Because I have had that worked on me, and some of it seems like hocus pocus and magic, but it works.
Right, it does work.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So with ART, I mean, there's a lot of new research coming out on soft tissue therapy, but what we're trying to do is say we have some kind of tightness or pain within a tissue. We're trying to get in that tissue, find specific areas that either two tissues are not gliding past each other the right way, or there's tightness. So we're working into that tissue, moving someone throughout the range of motion to help really release that restriction within the tissue or get them better overall range of motion.
Okay. All right. And I know in our second show we're going to have some examples of some hands-on kind of stuff too. Maybe you can do a little demonstration on
great.
that. So today, okay, here you are in Nashville. You have your own business. You have a killer website that has wonderful videos, and we'll have the website on our credits so you know how to, our audience knows how to get a hold of Garrett McLaughlin. And tell us more about somebody comes to you now, and yes, they can play with their kids, but they've been toying with the idea of learning to run, getting out there. It's been a long time. They come to you, and tell us I believe on your website it has a success thing that they can come to you once and meet you, and it won't cost them anything, and you can kind of tell them, do an assessment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I always like to start with what I call a success session.
Success.
I don't like to throw anyone into a specific program or offering without knowing I'm the person that can help them, because there's so many people in this Nashville area that are great at what they do, and really matching that person with the right professional is important to me, rather than trying to take everyone, and some you can help, some you can't. So what we do in the success session, it's 30 minutes just talking about their history, talking about their goals, and looking at what do they really want to accomplish. So with that, I really tried to sketch out a plan for them to say, hey, you're trying to, either you're a healthy runner, you're trying to get down to a 2-hour half marathon. This is where you're at right now. This is where you want to get to. These are the steps that you need to take to get to that point, whether it's coming in, working with me personally 2-3 times a week. Maybe it's me creating them a program because they're already going to a gym. So it's really filling in what fits their situation as much as possible, rather than saying, hey, you have to come in and do this, because there's so many different things that I can offer or provide them that really fits them financially, fits them with their time, whether they're a busy professional or have kids. So that's what I try to do with the success session, is really try to narrow it down to what's going to make them the most success.
And their goal, whether it be, hey, I want to get off the couch and do a 3K, 5K, or I want to do a marathon. And you have some real success stories on your website. I know one recent one lady that she had just completed a marathon, and her picture is on there. And tell us about how she came to you. And she is not the 20-year-old skinny gal. She is, it looks like maybe a middle-aged person that had to really work to get this. And you helped her. And it took 6 months, I guess?
Yeah, it took about 6 months. I think that's about typical. A lot of people come in and think after a couple sessions, I'm going to be all set and I can get there. It takes a lot of consistency and patience and hard work on their end. So when she came to me, she was very active, doing her own resistance training. Has always done half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks in the past, but want to take that next step to doing the marathon. So for a lot of people that know running, the marathon is going from a half marathon to marathon. It's no simple task. So she had a history of knee pain and a lot of orthopedic injuries. So what we really needed to do was look at her body from a function standpoint and see where were her limitations, what were things that were predisposing her to injury, how do we try to resolve these as much as possible, and then build her up so when she goes out and works on her training and her long runs on Saturdays, she's really ready to tolerate and handle that mileage. Because running takes a toll on the body, and with what I do, it's really trying to build up resilience and tolerance to them to go out there and to do that successfully.
And then give us a little example. We've talked of generalities, like what training did you do with her? Like what did you tell her to do?
Okay, so she actually didn't. She came to see me once a month. She was already doing her strength training, so she lived in Smyrna. It was just too difficult for her to come to Cool Springs and to work with me individually on a weekly basis. So what I did was we ran through an evaluation. We looked at all those key areas to make sure she stays injury-free and create her a program. She actually worked at Planet Fitness. So I created a program. She told me, hey, this is what I have access to. I have dumbbells. I have these machines. I have a stability ball. So I need to go home. I look at the evaluation, see what are the key things that she needs to work on a 2-3 times a week basis. To be successful. So pretty much for her, it was fine-tuning and tailoring a program that was specific to what she had access to. She was already doing resistance training consistently, but a lot of times I find people are very general within resistance training and not doing things that are very specific to their limitations to what they need. So really try to fine-tune that to put her on the specific path to train for that marathon.
And then she did a marathon, didn't she?
She did. She didn't miss a beat. She did everything I asked of her. She'd come back and sometimes doing more. And she's kind of one of those people that you hope you have, because all you had to do was guide her in the right direction, and she did everything else.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing you say is that somebody like her would see you physically once a month, but you had designed a program, here are the different steps, and she was disciplined enough to do it on her own. But therefore somebody else that wants to see you, let's say once a week, and has the funds to do that, then you can do hands-on, this is what we need to do to get your goal.
Yes, I see people that are two different ends of the spectrum. People that say, hey, I'm doing this, I just need to do this better. So, okay, let's just guide you in that. I have other people that say, I am not going to do this on my own, so I would like to come in and work with you 1, 2, 3 days a week sometimes. So I try to fit them in with what works best for them. So I see a lot of different people. Also have a few group offerings too, that people like to come work out in more of a high energy group atmosphere that's more specific to runners and endurance athletes. So we put them in that group, and they're working either with friends or fellow runners that they run with on Saturday, and more of a general program, but it's a fun atmosphere to get everyone together. Everyone's working towards a common goal, whether it's a 5K, half marathon, or full marathon.
So it's a variety. You can go to a class, and you can see you once a week or once a month and have that goal. And we've only talked about runners, but do other people other than runners come to you for your skills?
Yes, I have quite a few. Right now I have several high school athletes. I have a few soccer players. I have a basketball player. I have just regular professionals that either were lingering aches and pains or were cleared by physical therapy and know I need to continue to build up and to get stronger, just to make sure, because their physical therapist told them, you need to continue on this pathway to make sure this doesn't happen again. So I see a few different types of people.
Okay. All right. And can you say that it's mostly people of ages from 30 to 50 or 20 to 10 or whatever?
It's really a big age range. Most of my clientele, I would say, would be 35 through 65. But looking at some of the kids that I have now, I have a couple kids groups as well. 12 and is maybe 12 to 72, I think, is what it ranges from. But they're usually in that 35 to 65. That's kind of the prime age group for me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, is there any particular thing that you would like our audience to know about what you do that maybe may be misunderstood, or about running, that if you're there laying up in bed and you're ill and you're thinking, I'd like to get healthy, but I don't even exercise? Do you have any advice for people like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, which it's very easy to take that first step to do a class or to exercise in a general way. But what I like to do is really individualize it as much as possible, since we're all so different with our backgrounds, our maybe athletic history. Some people that haven't played at all, or others that sit at a desk all day every day, that are really in this more of a rounded position. So what I like to do with my services is really that first evaluation to see, what do you need specifically, what are your goals, what are you trying to get to. So we don't just throw exercise at them just to exercise, but can we help move better, move more pain-free, look at those key things that are maybe predisposing you to injury down the line, and correct those things early on, so you can go and just move and be healthy and work towards being a better you.
Right. I know some of your clients have had, when reading in your blog, they've had plantar fasciitis and knee problems, and they kind of thought there was no hope, and miraculously you helped them.
Right, right.
And it wasn't overnight, but they were able to run pain-free, and that's great that you can be such a great guide in that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it takes some time. I think a lot of people don't realize, with doing different therapies and treatments, that it could take. I mean, the last one with plantar fasciitis told her it could take her 6 to 12 months. So she was very patient going through that process. It took her about 6 to 7 months to get over that.
Right.
But when you're dealing with things for years, sometimes, I mean, that's what it takes to really get past things.
Wow. And indeed you have. Wow. Well, I really want to thank you very much for being on the show. And Garrett McLaughlin, and again, we'll have that website, and it will be, remember, we have show number 2 that's coming up, and all the things he's talking about, we're going to actually demonstrate quite a few things like plyometrics and some real fancy words for some really interesting positions and exercises and strengthening things. So one can go out and exercise and wouldn't have the luxury of having a very well qualified guide to help in so many ways. Wow. Well, thank you. We look forward to our second show, and this is Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. We thank you so much. Keep up. Keep exercising.